Omoyele Sowore. He's an entrepreneur, he's an activist, he is a scholar, he is a presidential candidate for the African Action Congress Party. And he will be vying for the presidential seat of the 2019 Nigerian presidential election. We've got him here live at Perth, Western Australia, and he's going to be talking to Africans living in diaspora.
Thank you so much for bringing me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here in Perth. This is the fourth city in our Australian tour, having done town hall meetings in Brisbane, Melbourne, in Sydney. So yesterday, Sunday, we had an amazing town hall meeting here in Perth where we interacted and engaged with the Nigerian community here and other Africans, and we're glad to join you here today.
It's good having you, sir, today. And one of my very most question is, why are you really here in Australia?
I'm here because it's important that in taking Nigeria to the next level, which is our desire and the position of our political party, that we mobilize every Nigerian in all the nooks and crannies of the world. And Australia possesses a sizable population of professional Nigerians who are living here, who have obtained skills and who have families who are, living in this part of the world, and they've invited me and our party to come and talk to them and see how we can exchange ideas and also raise funds in a way that is transparent, so that we can use that to combat the big politicians in the country and take our country back from them. So we've done 4 town hall meetings and fundraisers, and it's been very good so far. But it's also important to let people know that the diaspora community brings in a lot of revenue into Nigeria on an annual basis. About $50 billion is officially what is remitted back home by Nigerians in the diaspora. So these are powerful stakeholders who unfortunately are not allowed to vote because there's no diaspora voting rights in Nigeria, in Nigeria's constitution yet.
Okay. And sir, what are your plans for Nigeria come 2019? Hopefully, if you become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Well, it's important to say that at this point, we want to use the right adjectives. When I become the president of Nigeria in 2019, that's the way I want you to look at it. And the plans are several plans that we have to take on Nigeria to make Nigeria great at the same time. About 10 of them, starting with security, providing power, ensuring that we do our infrastructure right, fighting against corruption, creating an economy that is all inclusive, restructuring our country so that it's a real federal system that respects diversity and the need for each of the zones to grow at their own pace and level, and to see to an equitable distribution of our resources, and as well as devolve power to all levels that is necessary for inclusiveness and participation in the democratic life of Nigeria. And also we have plans to improve on our health system, which is almost nil right now, our education system to bring it on par with global standards, and also create an opportunity for food security on the continent, and also tourism. These are some of the things that are planned to start with. But most importantly, Nigeria must find its feet on the global stage in such a way that it can be the leading voice to take Africa to that renaissance that will make Africa become a voice to be reckoned with and a continent to be reckoned with on the world stage.
Mr. Sowore, can you just tell us who Omoyele Sowore is? Just summarize who your person is.
I'm 47 years old. I was born in Niger Delta region of Nigeria, and I grew up attending public schools. Migrated to the United States in 1999, what I would describe as self-exile, and I've been there since 1990. Before I came to the US, I used to be a student activist fighting for democracy, human rights, and doing everything to combat corruption and environmental pollution carried out by oil companies in Nigeria. And when I arrived in the US, after obtaining my master's degree in public administration, I started what is known as Sahara Reporters, which is a tech-driven news website that engages in exposing and raising the voices of people who want to be heard and expanding democratic space in Nigeria. And also, it was, in my view, a disruptive platform that helped to expand Nigerians, involvement of Nigerians all over the world, including the country, in reporting news and things that they didn't like in the country, in ways that empowered them and put the feet of our leaders to fire. So I returned back home at the beginning of this year to start the campaign to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, knowing fully well that having participated in the democratic life of the country for 30 years, I'm in a better position, having understood Nigeria very well, fought for it, suffered for it, to help lead Nigeria in a different direction that will take it out of failure into success, from poverty into prosperity, and from violence into peace, and generally just start to make Nigeria a fantastic place to be called a nation state that is working and workable for its citizens, about 200 million of them.
Okay. So, Mr. Sowore, there's this important question I've got to ask you about your beliefs. How you think you can turn Nigerian fortunes around just within 4 years, 8 years, 12 years? How long do you think it's gonna take you to be able to, lead Nigeria to the greener pasture?
It doesn't have to take forever. We started this conversation where you said Rome wasn't built in a day. And, my response to that is that Rome was not built forever. So the place we call Rome today was built up to a point and it became Rome. And Nigeria needs to get to that point where we have to finish every unfinished business in the country, where we have to complete every construction that started some 56 years ago, where we have to heal the wounds that were inflicted by war and strife and general chaos in the country, where we have to start building in places where we haven't built, and where we have to start nurturing the country to become a progressive society where everybody who's a Nigerian can have a fair share of the opportunities that are bound in the country and they are not left out. So this is something that can happen, in my view, and going by the research and studies we've done, within the next 2.5 years, starting from 2019, we can bring the electrical grid in the country to start functioning to a level of 24 hours electricity in 2.5 years, going by the technology we understand to happen. We have 200 million people, of which 70% of them are young people who you can put to work immediately to build over 17 million homes that are needed to erase the housing deficit in the country. You can put people to work in agriculture in such a way that there can be food security within a year, because it doesn't take forever to grow all the crops that we need to ensure food security. It doesn't take forever to create a society where we can have diversity of all these products to ensure that everybody is happy. It doesn't take forever to build schools, or to create hospitals that are working, or to find a situation where our health system is started from a point where people at least can start seeing doctors when we start our universal health care system in the country. We know that these are things that are happening in other places. We understand that we have understudied them, and Nigeria is going to be put to work immediately in such a way that people will be surprised that another Nigeria is actually possible. But this would not be possible if we keep voting for the same set of people that has failed Nigeria over these years.
Okay, sir. So, what sort of revenue generation machinery have you got in place to be able to fund all these changes you're dreaming of?
One is to plug leakages. Nigeria loses about $5 billion every year to corruption alone. We also have done our research and found out that our tax collection rate is the lowest in the sub-Saharan African region. We're at 7%, whereas Ghana is at 15%. It means that we can quickly raise a lot of money if we're collecting tax. When we're not raising taxes now, we're collecting taxes appropriately. And also in areas where we have been doing business, like in the oil sector, we're losing about $60 billion every year to either to lack of collection of royalties or corruption by officials operating the oil sector. And other countries who are par with Nigeria in terms of production levels are doing wonders in their various countries. Mm-hmm. And we also have something that we cannot underrate, and that is a very vibrant young population of Nigerians out there who you can put to work when you implement all of the nice and beautiful programs we have. We can bring in a lot of revenue into the country, and also to harness our foreign brothers, our brothers and sisters who are based abroad, the Nigerians in diaspora, who are already sending in some $50 billion annually. But imagine that you create a country where they can directly fly in, come and invest, and be part of the process of development and growth. You're talking about $150 billion that can come in directly there. But a lot of them are so scared now to even visit the country. A lot of them who are willing to come don't feel like they belong or they are welcome in the country. A government that welcomes them, that protects them, a government that says, hey, you are free to stay here, you are safe to be with us. We bring in more than double or triple what we're getting from our brothers and sisters who are based abroad, about 6 million of them officially. So the moment you have the right government in place, the moment the programs are being implemented truthfully, honestly, and transparently, you will see an income level that will rise. And most importantly, when you get power, electricity, and energy right in the country will experience a boom that you've never seen before. And these are things that we have figured out, and we're just waiting to implement as soon as possible.
Okay. Now we want to shed more light on the history of the country called Nigeria.
Yeah.
As a political activist, as an entrepreneur, and as a man of timber and caliber, can you tell us a bit about the history of the country called Nigeria?
Oh,
Sorry, I'm just coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for
Press go.
Yes. Yeah.
The battery level.
Oh, my battery is low. Don't worry, we'll be fine.
Okay.
We're ready. It's still rolling.
Okay. So, with regards to the history of Nigeria, you have to look at it from the context of its colonial history. Nigeria became a nation state, I would say, officially in 1914, when there was an amalgamation of the northern and southern protectorate of Nigeria. And what it means is that after 1914, Nigeria started to experience colonization officially. Protectorates are bodies of nation states that are getting help from colonial masters to defeat their enemies, to ward off enemies. But in 1885, as you know, there was a Berlin Conference in which Africa was partitioned. So the Brits went in, took their own part. The Italians went in, not really successful. The Germans went in. They were defeated during the World War, Second World War, and they withdrew from the continent of Africa. I think after the First World War, so they withdrew. It was the Second World War, I think. They withdrew from the continent of Africa, but they had some control. And then the Portuguese had their own portion, the French had their own portion. That was the history of Nigeria up to 1960. It was like it was a colonial experiment. And in fact, the country known as Nigeria today used to be known as Slave Coast.
Slave Coast.
Yes. in addition to the number of countries around it, because about 43 million persons were sold into slavery through just Badagry report alone. And that is twice the size of Australia today in population. So it was a lot, for over 400 years, there was a lot of activities with regards to slavery happening out of Nigeria. So after that, of course, in 1960, we had independence, colonial or political independence, but that didn't last for too long. After in 1963, there was a coup, and the outcome of that coup led to a civil war about 1967. So there was an attempt by the southeastern part of the country to secede from Nigeria to Biafra, and it led to war, and that war raged for about 3 years, leading to the death of over 3 million people. So after the war ended at about 1970, Nigeria, of course, remained under military rule, and the military was there up until about 1979.
Okay.
A lot of coups and counter coups, coup d'etats. And then there was an attempt at democracy in 1979. That ended in 1983 when another military coup took place, and another military coup followed in 1985. And between 1985 and 1993, we had the military leader in office, and then there was an attempt to have an election in 1993. The election was free and fair, but the military again annulled the election.
Okay.
And that was how some of us became student activists. We're fighting very strongly to